Ladies, gentlemen, non-binary people, they didn't give you a special middle name yet, so we have to call you non-binary people. Welcome to my 2024 reading Wrapped. Obviously inspired by the Wrapped of another company, which I will not name because they're not sponsoring me. Why associate my name with them if they don't want to sponsor me? It's not because I have like 1,000 subscribers, it's because I've got a very little special video cooked up for y'all. If you're somebody that likes to stick to watching my neuroscience videos, give this one a try. Even though I don't know if you'd have made it this far, I don't even know if you'd have clicked on it, but try it. Before we dive in, do you guys like my shirt? Like, I'm so obsessed with it. It is made out of 100% mohair though, so it's a little bit itchier. It's a little bit, I'm a little bit uncomfortable. And don't ever try to go pooping with this on. Don't ever try, and if you do poop, if you did try pooping, don't ever try to wipe, okay? Just leave with the skid marks. Try to get in there. This is so long. You know what? Let's just go ahead and get started. This year I read 26.5 books. I say 0.5 because I'm halfway through one. I don't know if I'll finish it. I might just leave it there because it is so god-awfully boring. Oh my god. This, friends, is Laser Writer 2. It's based on a repair shop for MacBooks in like the early 2000s. Yawn. Sorry, if you're interested in that kind of thing, go ahead. I recommend it to you. I don't recommend it to anybody like me because I certainly am not enjoying it so far, but it's so short, so I want to finish it. That's the 0.5 that we're talking about here. I did set a goal on Goodreads to read 25 books this year. I used to be one of those people that was like, you know what, we're gonna do 100. Can't do that anymore. I have life going on, you know? Like, I have life going on. I'm personally very proud of myself for reaching 25. Last year, I tried to do 50, only read 11. But I don't know, this year I actually did it, so I'm like really proud of myself. Out of the 26.5 books I read this year, not to make it a competition, there was a ranking. We have a top 5 right over here. Wait, maybe I should go over here. We have a top 5 right over here. I'm gonna edit in the books that are top 5 right here. I think we're gonna go from 5 to 1, you know, build up to the huge thing. Okay, so number 5, what was this? I don't remember. Ghost Pains by Jessie Jazuska Stevens. Ghost Pains by Jessie Jazuska Stevens was never something that I thought would really be on my radar like that, to be completely honest, because I can't stand short story collections. I can read a short story every now and again when I'm in the mood for it, just one, okay? Like online or something like that, and then I'll set it aside. But if it's a collection, I just always get so bored by all of it. But this collection, oh my god. It is so rare to me that every single story in a short story collection will hit. Because I read Her Body at Other Parties this year too. And that one that was about Law and Order or maybe it was Criminal Minds. No, it was Law and Order SVU. Yawn fest. Major yawn fest. I couldn't get through that. And then I sold the book because I just couldn't do it. This girl's writing is just so unparalleled. You can tell that she's trying to say something with every single short story that she writes, but she kind of drops clues here and there. Some red herrings, some honest clues, and you're trying to figure out what the story is actually trying to say until the very end. And if you don't get it by the very end, she always ends with like a paragraph that just tells you what you're trying to say if you're too stupid to understand it. And even then you might still be a little bit too stupid to understand it, but something about her, man. I love it. I love it, I do. And then at number 4 we have Big Swiss. Big Swiss is about this girl who works as a transcriber for some sex therapists. In transcribing some of these sex therapist sessions, she falls in love with this one client of the therapist, and like she tries to like get in her life, you know? And then things go on from there. You can assume what happens, or you can read the book, which I recommend. Yes, I do. Number 3, Intermezzo. Surprise, surprise, oh my god, so basic, she's so basic, like oh my god, find a different book. I've talked about this book here and there on my page every now and again, but I'm just so shocked that I like this book because I usually don't enjoy a Sally Rooney. But Sally Rooney was so descriptive and exploratory with her writing this time, especially inside of the characters' thoughts, but she doesn't normally do. She was really inside of their heads this time, and I just freaking loved it. I freaking loved it. All of those interpersonal relationships and dynamics and morality and blah-de-blah-de-blue-blah, so good. That brings us to number 2, Carnality, which is the book that I just finished before reading the one that I'm reading right now. And it's absolutely insane. It's such a hallucination. I don't even know if you'd get it. Like, I don't even know if anyone would get it. I personally still don't get it. I've actually journaled about it a little bit in here to try to understand what they were trying to say. I still don't get it. There's this main character who's off on a writing grant in Madrid, Spain, and she gets approached by this really weird man in a bar who's like, please let me stay in your house for like a little bit in exchange for me telling a story to you about how I have this evil nun chasing me. Let me tell you the story of this evil nun that's chasing me. And the story is absolutely batshit crazy. It's so crazy, you're like, is this even real? I'll let you guys figure that out for yourself. It centers on a lot of the Catholic values of repentance and forgiveness. Whether or not we truly can give forgiveness or whether or not we truly deserve it, it's very interesting to me. And I still can't really tell if the author was, you know, upholding or subverting those values. I have to think on it further, but it was so crazy to me. I loved it so much, and just, wow. Number 1 on this list is Brat. I did read this book during Brat Summer. This has a completely different Brat vibe to Brat Summer. It's a different kind of Brat. Personally, one that I identify with more, because I'm not a party girl. I just get sad all the time. I also have talked about this book a lot on my page because I can't get enough of it. It's about this guy, his dad dies, he goes to his dad's house to try to clean up some things before like selling it off on the market. If you've heard me talk about this before, I'm sorry, you have to listen to me talk about it again. And it's like part body horror, it's part unreliable narrator, but it's all about the grieving process, and it's just so cool. It's just so cool. I love the way it plays with the format of fucking a story. You just have to get into it. Trust me. You just have to get into it, okay? Top genres, all right? I'm gonna pull up a chair for this because I want to sit down right now. What genres did I read this year? What did I get into? Number 1, pseudo-philosophical pretentious princess. This is the top genre that I read this year, and it makes a lot of sense to me. If it doesn't make a lot of sense to you, I'll dumb it down for you, okay? Sorry for being mean to you, I'm sorry. It's all about morality. It's like, what's right? What's wrong? Is there even a right and wrong? Or does it vary between person to person? And hopefully I'll flash a couple of examples up on the screen right over here. If you're really, really interested in this kind of stuff, similar to the way I am, I think two of the best examples that I read this year are either going to be Carnality or Labvona. Anything by Ottessa Moshfegh, if we're being completely honest. Ottessa Moshfegh loves to play with the idea of morality. She just loves it, especially getting inside of the head of a morally corrupt person. That's my stuff, man. That's my stuff. That's my shit. I can't curse on this channel, but that's my shit. Or maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should not. Because then maybe children can watch this, and then maybe. The second top genre that I read this year was allegorical fireplace frights, aka cozy little horrors that are almost horrors, but they're more allegorical than they are literal. I have been making my measly attempts to get into horror this year. The one true horror that I read was Salem's Lot by Stephen King. I've read a couple of other Stephen Kings, and by couple I mean 2. Like the literal definition of couple, I mean 2. And that was the first true horror that I read by him. Honestly, a little bit disappointed, not as entertained as I thought that I would be. It is one of his earlier books, and I feel like I just feel his style get sharpened over the years, even though I've only read 3 books by him. I do like more of his recent stuff. The other stuff that I read that was kind of horror, just a little bit spooky, maybe like Rouge by Mona Awad. Like that was definitely all about the beauty industry, people placing a lot of value on looking young and being young. The third most read genre this year is literature of lament. Sad girl stuff. Sorry, I gravitate towards that thing. I gravitate towards that. I don't know if you can tell, it's just kind of like a part of me. Like, look at the shirt that I'm wearing. I'm so pretty when I cry. Like, what even? You know what I'm saying? I had to stand up for this because when I sit, it did my boobs kind of just like meld the bottom 2 lines, and then it just says, I'm so pretty, which is a little bit vain. This is a little bit kitschy. One of the more hopeful, lamenting books that I read this year was definitely Bitter Water Opera, because that girl was just so lost and a little bit depressed, but she found her way out, and I think that's beautiful. There's value to sitting in your sadness and lamenting in it for a little, so some of those books are in here for sure, but then I started gravitating towards the ones where you find your way out. That brings us to number 4, which is Weird Wife Core. Trying to find a way to classify it, I thought it was more about family, but then I realized that no. The one defining trait out of all these is just a weird wife. You have like Arlington Park over here, the Deloriad elsewhere. Tom Lake, I feel like it's not as weird wife as the other ones. Because if you compare it to the Deloriad, I didn't really like the Deloriad though. I feel like it also fell into the camp of pseudo-philosophical pretentious princess. But that was like pretentious up to a 10. pretentious up to a 10. Like, I get what they were going for, but oh my god, pretentious up to a 10. Every single line, I had to look up what this word meant, what some word meant. Every single word that I read, I had to look up what it meant. And maybe I'm just stupid. Maybe the author just has, you know, a little fun, little something. What is the word? Like, maybe she just likes vocabulary. I'm gonna give up on finding the word. Maybe she just likes vocabulary. She's very into that. But also, like, ugh, I did learn a lot of cool words from that book. I did. But, you know, it gets tiring after a while. But oh my god, the paragraphs would span pages long. It would just be so rambling. There was a word that she used herself. I'm gonna bring it up. Hold on. Look, I took notes in here to try to figure out what this book meant, but it's just pretentious and annoying. Yeah, oh, this.
Legomenon.
Prolegomenon, but prolegomena is the plural version of that. Prolegomena is a critical or discursive introduction to a book. Yeah, discursive AF. Discursive AF. Get to your point, bitch. Look at this paragraph. It starts right over here. Keeps going. Keeps going. Oh, that keeps going. And it ends over here. I'm done. I'm done and I'm tired. I'm sorry for ranting about this book. It just falls into both Camp 4, and let me sit down so that I can edit it in. It just falls both into Camp 4 and Camp 1 of the books that I read this year. But it was one that I did not like. How does that work? I don't know. It works like that, so. I get it, babe. You want to be aesthetic and cute with it. You want to name your little parts silly little parts. I've done that before in my YouTube videos. I've named my parts of my videos silly little parts that doesn't really make sense and is kind of not really attached to what I'm talking about. I'm gonna calm down. I didn't even really end up talking about the wives in this book. The wives in this book? Incestual. That's all I'm gonna say. Because, I mean, that communicates it very well, don't you think? So. Number 5, we have pangloss print. Pangloss is a word that, oh my god, now I sound like the author that I was just making fun of for being pretentious and using too many vocabulary words. But pangloss, pangloss is a word that means a person who is optimistic despite the circumstances. And we have a couple of books in here that fall into there. These books are just pure fun. They're just pure fun, even though the circumstances are actual death, actually, for each one of these 3. They're just death. It's just so much fun. So I recommend these books if you're looking to have a little bit of fun. You know what I'm saying?
Around the Christmas tree, around the Christmas tree, around the Christmas tree, we're dancing.
I have read 2 books these year, one of these being Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, the other being The Corrections by Jonathan Franzen. Some men just don't know when to shut up, and that is definitely true for Mr. Franzen. I am done hearing about your thoughts about women. I'm done with that. Even if you're portraying them through these characters that are maybe slightly misogynistic, I don't want to hear it! I don't want to hear it! Oh my god, I can't do it so. Okay, anyways, so that's why I didn't finish it. As for Cloud Atlas, that story is told as a bunch of kind of mini stories from the perspectives of a bunch of different characters, which I love David Mitchell. I think he's very talented. I find it very cool how he can switch from character to character and have it sounding like a completely different voice. But the voice that I landed on, at which point I was like, I have to stop reading. It was just like very country, you know what I'm talking about? And when he wrote it like with all of the apostrophes and all of the slang and the misspelling, and I hate that. It's like reading Huckleberry Finn. Just didn't want to truck through it. I still don't want to truck through it. Like 60 pages of that. I don't want to read it. And then I did do a reread this year. That was My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. Snaps. Love it. Let's come around this way again. Top authors. I have 5. Number 1, Otessa Moshfegh. I read 1 book of hers this year for the first time. Vona, read another one for the second time. My Year of Rest and Relaxation, still hits. Number 2, Rachel Cusk. I read 2 books by Rachel Cusk here for the first time, and I just also borrowed one from the library, that one being her newest one, being Parade. I'm very excited to get into that, to be completely honest. She is a new author that I have just fallen in love with. I fall in love with her so deeply, and I'm very excited to read more of her stuff. I read Outline this year, and I also read Arlington Park. Number 3, we have to give it up for Anne Patchett. I love Anne Patchett. I love Anne Patchett. I read Tom Lake of hers this year. I've read most of her other stuff, not all of it. I do want to get through it, but Tom Lake, amazing. I always love her stuff. It just feels like being wrapped in a little warm blanket of familiarity and familial love also. 4, we're gonna do Stephen King just because, you know, I've kept the train of reading his books before. It is partly because of my boyfriend, because he loves Stephen King, but I'm continuing that. I did read Salem's Lot this year before I read The Gunslinger, which I have to read the rest of the series, and I read 11/22/63. And number 5, I'm adding Jessie Jazuska Stevens, who wrote that one short story collection that I was talking about before. I haven't read any of her other stuff, but after reading the short story collection, I was like, okay, I want to read the 2 novels that she has out. She's a very new author. I was so entranced by her writing. I was like, oh, this is an author that's gonna stick with me. Speaking of favorite authors, number 1, Otessa Moshfegh. I met her this year. Ooh, let's do a transition. I went to a couple of Bookish events this year, one of them being Otessa Moshfegh Talk. At which university was it? University of Northern Dallas. Me and one of my friends did like a 2-hour drive to get there just to hear her talk for like an hour, and then we did a book signing. She signed La Bona for me. Hold on a second, let's get it out. Yeah! What the fuck? I was a little bit awkward upon meeting her because I freaking love this woman and I've read everything that she has out. And the only thing that I could say to her was, man, must be getting tiring signing all these books, right? And then my friend said to her, oh my gosh, I love your work, blah, blah, blah. And then Otessa Moshfegh wrote an XO in her book. Why didn't I say that? Why didn't I say that? Why didn't I say that? Sorry. The other Bookish event that I went to, I had no business being there. Absolutely no business being there. I don't know why I did that. It was hosted by HarperCollins, Avon Reads, Epic Reads. They're all like subsidiaries of the fucking HarperCollins. They're all part of HarperCollins, okay? Which I'm forever grateful to them inviting me to this event, which was Shelves in the City. Dude, I don't even, dude. I had like 140K on TikTok at the time, but the thing is, I had left TikTok for like a good 2 years. And I just recently came back trying to figure out who I was, posting a little bit of book content here and there. They invited me, I think, just because they saw the number. I was like, I don't think anybody here watches my stuff. I feel like talking about this right now because A, I want to brag like a little bit. Like, just a little bit. And B, because I want to get off my chest the imposter syndrome that I was facing there. So imposter, but like the real imposter, you know? Other people may have felt some imposter syndrome. I was the real imposter. I was in the middle of reinventing myself. I know what kind of books I enjoy, but I was surrounded by so many people who read other types of books, you know, like romance, fantasy. I felt so out of place. I was like, I don't know how to be strong in myself here. I thank all those people again for organizing this entire thing. It was very, very cool. We got to tour the HarperCollins office and blah, 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 so yeah, invite me again. They're not gonna do that. But I did get to meet a couple of authors, most of them, their names I'd never freaking heard before, so I felt really bad. I was like, ah. And these other people, they were like, oh, you don't know, and I was like, that's what I was like. But I did know Victoria Aveyard. That bitch, formative for me. The Red Queen series, formative for me. And I got something signed by her, so. I've yet to read this because I don't like fantasy anymore. So I felt so bad for that too. I felt so bad. It was a very cool experience that I just wish I enjoyed more. But instead, I was like in a very weird transitory period of my life and I didn't know who I was and I felt very deeply insecure. I hope that was interesting to you, at least in the slightest, and it didn't come off as like really annoying. I'm sorry. But I am particularly grateful for being invited to that event because I was able to figure out what I don't like. I know I don't really like a romance very much. I have to be in a very specific mood to read a romance. I just don't like fantasy. I feel like I would like fantasy if I forced myself to get into it, which my boyfriend is really trying to do right now. He's trying to force me to get into fantasy, specifically Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I know everybody's like, oh my god, I love Brandy Sandy. I just get so overwhelmed by having to learn the rules of a brand new world. It's like too much for me. So I know what I don't like. And there are 5 books that I read this year that I specifically did not like. Let's go through them. Let's do it. I'm not gonna rank rank these ones because I don't really know where they fall, so I'm just gonna go on a list right here in no particular order. The center. What an interesting premise about an extremely exclusive institution where you can learn a whole language in like 2 weeks. I thought this was really gonna get into it, but it was so disappointing, poorly written, boring, uninspired. Limited. And just an overall disappointment. This next one I really thought I was going to like, Cleopatra and Frankenstein. I don't exactly remember what I hated so much about this. I did make a TikTok about it at the time, my defunct account, which I've now made private. Right, okay, I felt like it was trying too hard, and there were also some side perspectives from other characters that barely got any screen time or page time. It did nothing for the book at all, except to like build the world. It's like, why would you do that? That's not what this book needed. Another one where I feel like it was just trying too hard. I'm so sorry. If you're trying to form poetry into a narrative story, try harder. Just write prose, actually. You know what I'm saying? You can use the poetry techniques that you've gained from writing poetry and then incorporate that into your prose. Make it prose. I don't like it when you try to make it into a book. I don't like it. And that's the same for The Beauty and the Husband by Anne Carson. It's not even a book. They said it was like a collection of essays, tangos, about this fictional marriage between a man and a woman. But they were not essays, they were just poems.
I'm watching this back and I feel like the fatigue in me is making me come off as a bit harsh. So I just wanted to say, you know, poetry is fine, but I don't like being lied to because this wasn't an essay, this was poetry.
Camera's always dying. Back to this. Number 5, I already talked about Laser Rider 2, so that's it. I'm tired now. I read 3 audiobooks this year, which is very new to me. What were the audiobooks? There were Tom Lake, Rouge, and The Center. I got 6 from the library. At first, you know, I wasn't really looking for anything serious. I was jumping from library to library, had multiple affairs with multiple libraries, and then I just found myself falling in love with one. That library is now my favorite. It's like a community center for me. It holds such a special place in my heart. Also, to finish up, I gave away 4 boxes full of books when I was moving from college to here in this new place, post-grad, whatever it is. I don't remember exactly how many books it was, but it was 4 boxes full of them, like yay high. And I also sold 43 on Depop. Yes. Okay, well I'm done now. I don't know why I just did that spin. I hope you enjoyed this video, I'm sorry. I got so tired after my battery died just then, and like my energy's all gone. Hopefully you got, you know, a little bit of this, so like and subscribe and this stuff, and the notifications maybe too, those things. Yeah, okay, I don't have anything else to say. Goodbye!